Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am very excited because I know that you all are very faithful to listen to my different videos and social media posts about my books, and I love that. I love sharing book highlights with you, but I wanted to bring something today that is slightly book related. But I wanted to give you some encouragement from my life and from stuff that God is showing me in the scriptures that might speak more directly to your experience, something that we all go through. And honestly, what that is that place, that challenging place when you feel called to something, but you don't necessarily have a roadmap for it. And I recently went through a prayer reset week where I just turned off some distractions to seek the Lord in prayer. And I basically had a list of things like that. You know, I feel called to this, I feel called to that, but I just don't have a roadmap. And when you feel that way, it's super easy. I mean, we've all been there. But it's super easy when we're there to feel like I'm not super comfortable where I am, so maybe I'm in the wrong place. You know, I just wish that, you know, we look around at other people that are doing big things and we think, I wish God would just direct me somewhere else. I wish the answer was something simple, like I could just move or do something else. Or maybe you're really struggling where you are and you just want God to rescue you. You're like, I don't even want to figure this out. This is just really painful. And I just want to go someplace else. And Joseph, actually, I sort of imagined him feeling this way, but I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination too much to believe that he struggled with this. I really believe Joseph in Egypt, which is what my recent book is based on. In my novel of Sheaves and Stars, I explore how Joseph struggles with the idea that God rescued his great-grandfather Abraham from Egypt, and he's not rescuing him. And just for a little bit of context, let's read what happened to Abraham in Genesis 12:10. And I'm going to paraphrase the beginning here. Basically, we see in the previous chapters that Abram at the time was very faithful, walking with God. They had a great friendship, relationship, covenant. But then there's a famine in the land, and it doesn't say that Abraham sought the Lord. He just went down to Egypt, presumably without asking God. And he gets into immediate trouble because he's worried that the Egyptians are going to steal his beautiful wife and kill him for her because she's beautiful. And so he tells her, why don't you say that you're my sister? Well, this backfires because the Pharaoh thinks she's fair game, and he takes her into his house. Verse 17, but the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this that you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? I took her, so here's your wife, take her and go. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So God actually called down plagues on Egypt for Abram's sake, to rescue him and to rescue Sarai, his wife. And they were Abram and Sarai at the time. And so here's Joseph, the great-grandson, years later, having grown up, hearing that story and wondering, okay, I'm in trouble. I'm in slavery in Egypt. Why is God not rescuing me? What could he possibly? I feel like I'm called to something. God gave me dreams, set me apart. But why am I here? Why is God not rescuing me from here? And we get into that frustrating position many, many times when we feel like I don't have a roadmap for what I'm supposed to do here. And I wish that God would just rescue me from this place. But one profound thing that I realized during my prayer week is that the reason God rescued Abram from Egypt and not Joseph was that Joseph was anointed to be there. Joseph didn't know that or believe it yet, and he probably would have laughed if someone had told him. But Abram was there because of his own cowardice and his own foolishness got him into trouble. And God, being a kind God who is in covenant with Abram, rescued him from his own foolishness. But Joseph was anointed to be there. So sometimes, if you're seeking the Lord and you're not supposed to be somewhere, he will let you know. And he will tell you that you need to make a change. So make sure that you listen if that's the case. But one of the things that God told me in my prayer week was this season where you feel like I feel so boxed in, I don't know what to do, I feel so stuck. This season is not what you think. God wants to answer those questions, but he's going to answer them with his presence. The first thing he wants to do is to teach us to restructure our lives with him at the center, making sure that we're getting what we need from him, from his presence, coming to him and letting him be the path instead of looking for steps around us, just presenting ourselves to God with all that we have and letting him order your steps. In order to step into what he has for you, you're going to have to start believing that if he has placed you somewhere and he's not telling you to move, then that means that you're equipped to be there, at least for a season. And as you seek God, he will let you know what needs to change. But in the meantime, keep coming to him and your purpose will clarify. Sometimes it's not about rushing around trying to check boxes and fix things or do things to rescue yourself. Sometimes you are in a place because God has anointed you to be there and he hasn't revealed how those steps of those anointings are going to play out yet, but it is coming. So trust him. I pray that you're encouraged by that, because if he has put you somewhere, even if you feel like he made the worst mistake because you are so out of your element, at least for a season, if he's keeping you here, seek him and ask him, what do you want to develop in me in this place that couldn't be developed in me somewhere else? Ask him those questions persistently and then go into his presence daily. Exist in him, and those answers will be found in his presence. And his presence becomes like that old Minesweeper game where you could click around all you want, one square at a time. But if you click that one perfect square, the whole box, the whole screen opens up. That's how I have found it to be, just existing in God's presence, abiding with him. Instead of demanding that I'm not going to move forward until I get an answer to this question, I just abide in his presence, and his presence answers more questions than I was even asking. And I start realizing I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to worry about that. His presence just starts clearing things out. And sometimes day by day, that feels like that process is never going to end and never going to get you the answers. But there is always something to be found in his presence, always something that you need. So just throw yourself into putting him at the center and experiencing him, and your purpose will clarify. Trust him that he knows what he's doing with you. And if he's not moving you on, at least for this season, you are anointed to be where you are.